Okay, everybody. Welcome to our Go for Animals advocacy workshop. I'm very grateful that you have been able to take the time to come along to spend the next hour with us. My name's Bidder Jones. I'm the Director of Strategy with the Australian Alliance for Animals, and with me tonight is my colleague, Dr. Jed Goodfellow, who's Director of Policy and Government Relations. Hi, Jed.
Hello.
Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting on tonight. In my case, it's Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, and pay respects to their elders past and present. So yes, let's just go through what we're going to be covering in the workshop today. We've got, I think I've done the welcome and introductions. We're going to then kick off with a progress update on our flagship campaign, the Fair Go for Animals campaign. We'll then move on to talk about our current call to action under that campaign, which is to try and secure an independent Office of Animal Welfare in New South Wales. And we'll also be going through insights on what the federal election means for animal welfare. Then we'll have a Q&A and we'll go through some next steps. Just letting some more people into the meeting while we're just letting them come in. Okay. So, Fair Go for Animals campaign. You may have seen that last week, on the 10th of March, we launched the first Fair Go for Animals Day. And we chose this day because we wanted to celebrate the publication in 1964 of Ruth Harrison's book, Animal Machines. This was a revolutionary book that when it came out, and it exposed the realities of intensive farming in a way that hadn't been done before, and it really challenged how we treat farmed animals in a way that still resonates today. That book, in fact, led to the historic Bramble report into farm animal welfare, which in turn led to the establishment of the first committee really to look at farmed animal welfare, the Farm Animal Council in the UK. And the Farm Animal Council then in turn actually developed the 5 Freedoms, which was the first model to set out basic requirements for farmed animal welfare. So the catalyst of this book, was a really significant catalyst, and we wanted to set up this day to recognize that and to create a day of action so that we could put the spotlight on the broken animal welfare system that we have in Australia and provide the opportunity to unite the community and call for all the reforms that are needed to create a truly independent and fairer system that puts the interests of animals first. So the Alliance itself turns 3 this month. 3 years since we launched. And we've been running this flagship campaign for nearly as long as we've been in existence. So we'd like to give you a progress report on where we're up to. And for that, I am going to hand over to my excellent colleague, Jed.
Right, thanks very much, Bidder, and welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here. We've got a good turnout, and as Bidder mentioned, the Fair Go for Animals reform framework, it's quite high level, and it's about really changing the very system. It's about changing the governance of animal welfare policy in Australia because it's one of the biggest barriers to progress. So when we set out with the Fair Go for Animals campaign, we knew it was going to be a long-term project. It's quite an ambitious reform agenda. But we thought I think it's about 2.5 years since we launched the campaign, we thought it was a good time to do a little bit of a review to see where we're up to see how we're going with achieving some of the outcomes of the campaign and the reforms. So I won't speak too much about the detail of the policy here. This is more just reporting on some of a bit of the progress. If you're interested in more of the policy detail about each of these 6 reforms, then jump onto our website and go to the Fair Go for Animals page, because there's a report there, Building a Fairer Australia for Animals, which goes into a lot of detail about all of these policies. But really pleasing to report that on 5 of the 6 reform goals, many of the reform goals implemented fully in practice yet, but for 5 of them we've seen progress. On the first one, creating ministers for animal welfare, we don't have any ministers for animal welfare across the country at a state or federal level, nor do we have animal welfare recognised in the title of a ministerial portfolio. So that is the one reform where we haven't seen tangible progress yet, but we have been busy planting that policy seed with political parties across the country. We've got 8 minor political parties that support ministerial recognition of animal welfare, and we've had many constructive conversations with government officials about that reform. But ultimately, that is a decision not only of the government of the day, but of the leader of the government of the day. So it's either the Prime Minister or the Premier of the relevant state who decides the ministerial portfolio arrangements at the given time. So it's a tricky one, and it's not one we can put a sort of a definitive timeline on, but it's one that, as the political prominence of animal welfare grows, we're confident we will see animal welfare recognised at that high level in ministerial portfolios in the future. On reform number 2, establishing a National Commission for Animal Welfare, of course, we don't have a National Commission for animal welfare yet, but we have seen promising progress around creating a national statutory body for animal welfare that sits outside of or that oversees the Department of Agriculture in its approach to regulating the live animal export trade. And that was the Inspector General of Animal Welfare and Live Animal Exports. The bill passed Parliament in 2023, and it also was given further funding. So we see that as a platform that we can build on to expand the remit and the role of that office, to one day build it out to be a commission of animal welfare that would take on more of a policy development role as well. In that same vein, we've seen the federal government commit to renewing the Australian Animal Welfare Strategy, which again, it's not a commission of animal welfare, but it's providing that national framework that is going to be focused on coordinating states and territories in the process of developing national standards. So that would be one of the roles a national commission would play. So setting that national framework up is kind of a first step to then developing a national commission that would undertake functions under that framework. So, steps in the right direction there for national leadership on animal welfare. If we go down to the state level now, reform number 3 was creating state animal welfare authorities, so independent statutory bodies that would be responsible for administering state and territory animal welfare law. And on that front, we've seen quite a lot of progress. So at the New South Wales level, of course, we're going to be talking about this in a minute. We have seen the government commit to establishing an independent Office of Animal Welfare. At the Victorian level, we've also seen a Victorian parliamentary inquiry recommend to the Victorian government the establishment of an independent Office of Animal Protection. The Victorian government rejected that proposal, but nevertheless, having a parliamentary inquiry report that recommends that is positive for building that policy and evidentiary support base for the idea. In WA, the Labor Party has included an independent Office of Animal Welfare in its policy platform, its 2023 policy platform. It hasn't committed, the current WA government hasn't committed to establishing one yet, but animal welfare reform is on the agenda for the new Cook government that was re-elected, of course, just a couple of weeks ago with a very significant win at the election. So there's opportunities there also with the parliamentary makeup. We've got many more Greens in the upper house in WA as well now. So there's opportunities perhaps to get the Independent Office of Animal Welfare from Labor's policy platform and into actual government policy. So there's opportunities there in WA. And of course, in Queensland, We saw the RSPCA, which is, of course, the main enforcement body for the Animal Care and Protection Act. They have endorsed the idea of setting up an independent Queensland Animal Welfare Authority. So that's a good step forward as well, having that endorsement from the RSPCA, because that organisation plays such a significant role in the enforcement of the law in that state. So we're seeing progress on that front. Reform Goal 4, this is about legislative decision-making principles and sentience recognition being built into our state and territory animal welfare acts in order to create more consistency within the legislative framework. So we don't have this two-tiered sort of system of some animals getting protections and then other animals not getting any protections at all because we use or exploit them in a particular way that is convenient for us. So recognising sentience and enshrining legislative decision-making principles will hopefully ameliorate some of those inconsistencies in the law. And we're seeing progress here as well. So in Victoria, the Victorian government's new Animal Care and Protection Bill, or at least the draft bill, includes the principle of sentience. And it also includes a power for the minister to make decision-making guidelines that will apply to other ministers and public authorities where they're making decisions that may impact animal welfare. So that's positive to see. It's not as strong as what we would like, but it's a stepping stone that we can work on and build on. So that bill should be introduced in the Victorian Parliament in the coming weeks. And then in South Australia, we saw the new Animal Welfare Act pass just a few weeks ago, and it recognises that it recognises animals as living beings that can feel, perceive, and experience positive and negative states as a principle of the Act. So again, the idea there is that principle is to flow through the legislative framework and inform decisions that are being made under the legislation. So it doesn't use the S word. It doesn't actually state explicitly animals are sentient, but of course the definition there of sentience is built into the principle of the Act, which is just as good. That's the important thing. The WA government has also supported a recommendation of the review of its legislation to recognise animals as living beings able to perceive, feel, and have positive and negative experiences. So very similar to the South Australian approach. Again, defining what sentience is and building it into the legislation is going to be a really important thing for the way the legislation is interpreted and applied in the future. So again, the WA government hasn't implemented that yet, but hopefully with the new Labor government there and having that review already sitting on the shelf, it can introduce a new act that's going to implement those recommendations. And of course, just a plug there for the ACT government, because they recognised animal sentience and indeed the intrinsic value of animals in their Animal Welfare Act back in 2019 before the Alliance was created. So yeah, the ACT is head and shoulders above other states and territories at the moment, but hopefully other states will follow suit. And finally, we also have a reform goal of improving the standard setting process for the way national standards are developed. So creating more fairness and accountability within those processes. And on that front, we've seen state and territory and federal agriculture ministers commit to reviewing the national standard setting framework. That was committed to in 2023 with the idea of enhancing independence and transparency in that framework. So we're due for an update on that review. So yeah, they've engaged with stakeholders last year, but there hasn't been anything developed or proposed publicly yet. But that review is happening in parallel to the renewal of the Australian Animal Welfare Strategy, which also will create a platform for improved standard setting at a national level as well, at least with respect to coordination of the state and territory jurisdictions. So we have a bit more consistency and there's more of a priority given to that process. So yeah, some positive steps forward on that front as well. And then finally, when it comes to funding and increasing funding for animal welfare services, both policy services and enforcement services, we've seen some positive signs here. The federal government committed $5 million to renewing the animal welfare strategy, $4 million for the Inspector General of Animal Welfare. That was a doubling of the Inspector General's previous budget, so that was good to see. We've also seen the federal government commit to a $139 million package to support the phase out of live sheep exports, which is also of course, most of that money will be going into the industry in WA, but nevertheless, we need to recognise that that is for an animal welfare purpose at the end of the day, to phase out the cruel live sheep export trade. So it is a significant allocation of funding for what is essentially an animal welfare purpose, and $2.7 million of that package will go to improving sheep welfare standards domestically as well. At the state level, the New South Wales government committed $21 million to improving its animal welfare framework, including establishing an independent Office of Animal Welfare, which we'll talk about. So that's a fairly significant package of funding there. And the WA government, leading up to its election, it committed to an equal sum of money, $21 million, albeit over 3 years, to bolster animal welfare enforcement services in the state. So that's the kind of funding we're looking at for state governments to invest in animal welfare enforcement services to really improve the ability of those enforcement agencies to monitor, not only respond to, but also engage in proactive compliance monitoring as well, because that's very much lacking around the country. So look, in summary, we are seeing progress. So none of those reform goals have been completely implemented fully, but we're seeing positive steps forward on the path to creating a more independent animal welfare governance framework, with the idea of giving animal welfare greater weight within that decision-making process, greater weight to animal welfare science and greater weight to community expectations in that process by removing animal welfare from agriculture frameworks, ministries and departments of agriculture, and setting up new independent frameworks where animal welfare will get a fairer say. So that's the review of progress over the last couple of years. And of course, those reforms were courtesy of the tireless work of animal advocates and animal protection organisations across the country, including the members of the Alliance, of course, as well. I just want to give a shout out to all of those advocates who have participated in encouraging state and territory and federal governments to create those reforms, including many of you who are no doubt on the line tonight. But speaking of a big opportunity on one of the Fair Go for Animals reforms being setting up independent state-based animal welfare authorities, the most significant opportunity we have right now is at the New South Wales level, because we already have a commitment by the New South Wales government to set up an independent Office of Animal Welfare. They made this commitment at the last state election in 2023. So the Alliance went to all parties at the New South Wales election, asked them what their position was on an independent Office of Animal Welfare and a range of other policy matters. And we were really pleased to see that the Labor Party came back to say very definitively, there were no weasel words. They said New South Wales Labor will establish a new independent Office of Animal Welfare. So very definitive. And we then incorporated that within our election policy scorecards. That was part of an advertising campaign that reached over 1 million New South Wales residents. So it was communicated to a lot of people, and it was very much an election commitment by the New South Wales Labor Party. So since then we've had the New South Wales Agriculture Minister, Tara Moriarty, confirm the government's commitment to setting up an independent Office of Animal Welfare. So she's confirmed that multiple times in the New South Wales Parliament, which is really, again, fantastic to see. But we're now at the midpoint of the New South Wales government's term. So next week is their official midpoint. And we haven't seen any tangible evidence that they've progressed this policy. But certainly nothing publicly. We've engaged with the Minister's Office and we've engaged with the Department of Primary Industries about where things are up to, had positive conversations, but we still haven't seen anything produced publicly. Public consultation hasn't really commenced. So we're minded to ensure that we start to convey to the New South Wales government the importance of following through with this commitment, because next year, it's the year before the next election. And the way that government cycles work is that once an election is on the horizon, all of a sudden priorities change, things might fall off the agenda, and we've got to make sure that this is the year we get the New South Wales government to actually follow through with implementing the Independent Office of Animal Welfare. So that leads us to the particular call to action for tonight's workshop, which is about writing to the New South Wales Premier and the Minister for Agriculture, calling for them to implement this election commitment. So I'll just pass over to Bidder now to talk you through the way in which you can take that action.
Thanks so much, Jed. Yes, this is such an important opportunity, and I mean we'll be putting this pressure on the Minister and the Premier for a number of weeks going forward. But what we'd really like to do is to start generating a bunch of letters now. Some of you will be familiar with the AI Advocate tool that we have used before for creating unique submissions. We're using that again for this process. But we've also now created an online form on our website that allows you to send your letter directly there to the Premier and to the Minister Tara Moriarty at the same time. So I'm just going to talk you through that. I'm not expecting you to do it right now. Rest assured, at the end of this session, we will be emailing you with all of the information that we're giving you during the workshop, and the links and any other information that you'll need. But I'm just going to talk you through the process so that you can see how it works. It won't take very long. So yeah, there are 4 simple steps. The first one is to generate your letter with our AI Advocate tool. Copy that letter onto our online form, personalize it so you're happy that it is reflecting your own views and your style of writing, and then send it to the Premier. So the first step is to go to AI Advocate. I've just got some screenshots here so you can see what that looks like. This is the landing page. You just need to read the disclaimer and then just hit start. You'll come to this page, which is where all of our current projects are sitting. So we've got some letter writing up the top for a Better Chicken Australia campaign, but down the bottom, you're just going to click on the New South Wales Independent Office of Animal Welfare. Underneath that, what's highlighted in blue, you click on that and it will take you to the next page, which will guide you through the process. I'm not going to take you through each of those steps. I'm just going to show you what it looks like at the end when you have generated your letter. So this is a letter that the Copilot has generated based on my choices of paragraphs. And once the letter is here, all I'm going to need to do is to go and copy the text using the button up at the top. And then at the bottom here, there's a link. You can submit it here. Just click on that. That will take you straight to our website, to this page, which is set up with a form to show you where you can paste the letter. So you have to scroll down the page. When you scroll down, you put in your name, your email address, and then you'll be able to paste the letter right into this form. There is some existing text already there, which if you don't want to go through the AI Copilot step, you can use that as the basis. But I wouldn't advise that, because it's better if you're able to, so I'm just going to mute that person. It's better if you're able to generate a unique letter. The more different and unique the letters are, the more likely they are to be taken notice of. So that's the letter ready to go. Once you've got it in there, you just click on send letter, and it will go to both to the Premier Chris Minns and to the Agriculture Minister Tara Moriarty. You might have one question in your mind: do you have to be in New South Wales to do this action? The answer is no. Anyone can write to the New South Wales Premier and the Minister, but your letter will carry more weight if you're a New South Wales resident. But we still are encouraging everybody to take the action. If you've got any other questions about this process, I'd be happy to answer them when we get to our Q&A session at the end of the workshop. So I think without further ado, I will go back to Jed, who is now going to give us some background on some insights on what the federal election means for animal welfare, what we've been doing in the lead up to that federal election, which, if you haven't heard, is going to happen in May this year for sure. Thanks, Jed.
Right, thanks, Peter. Yes, you'd have to be living under a rock not to realise we're on the eve of a federal election campaign being called. So probably certainly in the next couple of weeks, most political observers are expecting an election to be called, and we're looking at potentially either the 3rd of May or the 10th of May for the most likely date for the election. So it's very much upon us. And this federal election, I mean, all federal elections are really important and consequential, and certainly for animals, but this one in particular, because of this policy here, is really going to be on the line in this election, because we have a very stark difference between the major parties on this particular issue. The Labor Party, with the support of the Greens and Independents, of course, passed legislation to phase out the live sheep export trade by 2028. And the coalition, in particular, the Nationals, have vowed to repeal that legislation in their first 100 days of government. So it is going to be a really important election for animals and animal welfare, and hence why the Alliance and our members are going to be doing a lot of work during the election, and we already have commenced that. And we're hoping that you will also participate as well, and we'll give you some options and some guidance and materials for how you can participate. So just briefly, in terms of where we're at in terms of the likely outcome, if you do watch the news, you'll likely have heard that the polls are very, very tight. So there's no real certainty about which way it's going to go. Probably the most certain thing is that it's going to be very tight, and it's likely to be a minority government. Whether it's a minority Labor government or a minority coalition government is the big question. But what that means is that the independents likely they're going to play a really significant role in the next Australian Parliament. So in light of that, our strategy for this election is really to engage heavily with those independents, both incumbent independents and also some of the independent candidates that look like they've got a reasonable shot of success, but also to engage with some of the Liberal Party candidates who are going up against those independents. They're generally moderate Liberal Party members in the coalition, and from our engagement so far, we realise that quite a number of them have some reservations about the party's position of supporting the live sheep export trade and seeking to overturn it. We've got some interesting artwork going from Monica or someone there, but yeah. So I don't know if yeah, we can no. Anyway, thanks, Monica, for that artwork. But yeah, preferably you can leave that to the end. No problems. We can still read the text coming up. But yeah, so it's going to be really important to get those moderate Liberals on board if we can, but also the independents in particular. So now I think Bitter's just resharing. There we go. So we're targeting 18 seats at this election for our scorecards, with 6 particular policy asks. So these are policy asks that we've agreed to with all of our members. and they include supporting the phase out of live sheep exports, so supporting the current legislation that's before Parliament. We've also got on there the establishment of an independent National Animal Welfare Commission. In the absence of getting a national commission agreed to, we have two sort of interim asks along the banner of national leadership, which includes expanding the role and functions of the Inspector General to include other areas of Commonwealth responsibility for animal welfare, and also to allocate sufficient funding to the Australian government to lead the development of national standards. At the moment, we have a stalemate where basically we're seeking to rely upon individual states to put up their hand to lead national standards development, and it's just not happening, and it's really delaying the process. So the federal government really should be leading that, but it requires sufficient funding to do so, and so that's going to be one of our asks as well. Supporting the Australian Animal Welfare Strategy. So we don't want to see what happened last time in 2013 when the previous coalition government came into power and the Australian Animal Welfare Strategy was abolished, and pretty much everything else to do with animal welfare at the federal level. So we want to try to secure bipartisan support for maintaining the Animal Welfare Strategy because of many reasons that are in the interests of animal-based industries as well: market access, consumer confidence, greater national consistency, etc. Many good policy reasons for both sides of government to be supporting the strategy. We're also asking for them to support the recommendations of the Productivity Commission and its inquiry into philanthropy last year, where it recommended the expansion of tax-deductible gift recipient status to all animal advocacy charities, which would be fantastic to see and would increase the level of giving to animal advocacy charities. We're also asking the parties to support the development of an animal welfare trade policy that will guide the Australian government's approach to negotiating free trade agreements. We've seen really positive progress with the UK free trade agreement, and also recently the UAE, or the United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Both of those agreements recognised animal welfare, the importance of animal welfare. The UK agreement recognised animals as sentient beings, and that both trading partners would seek to promote animal welfare and protect animal welfare. So really good to see that being embedded in international trading policy and trade norms. And we want to see DFAT, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, have a more formalised approach where it has a default position of seeking to have animal welfare recognised in trade agreements. So we're pushing for that as well. And then finally, the sixth policy ask is about expanding the current ban on the importation of hunting trophies. So at the moment, the ban is quite narrow. It only focuses on a few species of animals, and our members, Humane World for Animals Australia, formerly Humane Society International, and Four Paws Australia work on this campaign, and they would love to see the expansion of that import ban to include all species that are protected under CITES. So they're the six policies that we're presenting to the parties and the candidates, and we're getting some very good responses already. And we're hoping that within the next couple of weeks, we will be ready to launch the scorecard campaign, which, as I mentioned, will include 18 electorates. And you'll see a scorecard like this circulating around the country, really. So that was the scorecard from the previous federal election. This year's election scorecard will include a couple more policies, and we will have specific scorecards for all of those 18 electorates that will actually list the candidates' names as well. So in terms of your assistance, we'll be mailing out to you these resources when they're ready to go. It will also include a bit of a political engagement guide, but having you contacting your local political candidates to ask them where they stand on these issues, because we don't have the capacity to reach every political candidate in the country, and you might reside in an electorate that we're not targeting. So having you find out who your local candidates are and contacting them about these policies, asking where they stand. And if you do get a response, then by all means, let us know about it, because we can then record that and also include it in our parliamentary engagement in the new parliament, should they be successful. and we can hold them to account on what they did promise to you at the election. So that would be a great help. And also just sharing the scorecard assets as well would be fantastic as well, to get it out there far and wide. That just gives the incentive to the candidates and the parties to actually agree to some positive policies for animals, because they know their constituents and they know people around the country are going to be finding out about where they stand on these different issues. So yeah, look out for that in your mailboxes in the next couple of weeks.
Firstly, before I wrap up, thank you so much for coming along. Thanks, Jed. You're always so articulate in these workshops, and it's just so exciting for me to hear again the progress that we've made since the Alliance started 3 years ago. I think it's been a very exciting time, and fingers crossed we can see some of those reforms that we're looking for get even closer to their goals over the next 3 years. But the task that we want you to really take away as your homework is an action to the New South Wales Premier and the Ag Minister. So if you can set yourself a deadline now, tonight would be great to send that letter. You'll get a follow-up email with more information about how to do it. Do get in touch if you need any help. And also keep a lookout for our federal election update, which will be coming in your inboxes soon. When we get to that point, we will have a scorecard that will tell you what the major parties and some specific electorates, what the candidates are going to be, or how they support our different policy asks. So that's all we wanted to cover tonight. But yeah, really grateful for you coming along, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.